This week, we're gonna go ahead and make a phone charging chair. We're gonna start with 4 pieces of pine that are 1/2 inch thick, 2 inches wide, and 10 inches long. We're gonna cut and glue and sand and make a mortise and tenon joint that comes together like so. It makes a great phone charging chair. Let's get started. This project, like so many at woodshop, started the planer, and I am taking pine shorts. These are pieces from leftover from other projects, and I'm planing them down to 1/2 inch. And now I'm at the table saw cutting these to 2 inches wide. Then the miter saw to cut these to 10 inches long. I've got my 4 pieces of pine that are 1/2 inch by 2 by 10, and I've got my page of patterns. So I'm not gonna cut these out, but I'm just gonna go off the measurements that are on here, and I'm gonna start with the big ones, because if I mess up on this, I can go ahead and use this piece for one of those. So start with your 2 big ones. So for this section, I'm going 7/8 of an inch up, and then 1/2 inch from there. And then I'm marking these 1 inch in. I'm gonna go ahead and use my new speed square that I just made. And then these need to be 7 3/4 long. All right, one down, go ahead and mark the other one. All right, let's cut these out. First thing I'm gonna cut out is the length. I'm gonna go ahead and put an X on this side of the line, all right, to show me where my saw is gonna go. Put your piece of wood in the miter box. Line up that line right there with the left side of this opening. And we're gonna start by pulling back a couple times. Now we're gonna go ahead and cut this notch out. So what I want you to do is take your square and continue this line across the top. Like so. Now place your piece of wood in the miter box with the edge up, and this line right here, even with the left side of the opening. And we're gonna go ahead and cut down until we get to this line. Then we're gonna go ahead and move this line to the right side of the opening and make a cut down to that line as well. Stopping when we get to that line. Now, the next thing we're gonna do is try to do 1 more or 2 more cuts in between these two. They're called relief cuts. Now, here's a little pointer. You can also take one of your extra clamps and clamp this in place. You could have done that before you made these 2 cuts. It's just gonna help hold that where you want it. I might just break out like that. That's okay. All right, now this is cut. We'll clean this up later. Let's move on to the next one. Now I want you to put a clamp on one end like this, so they're nice and even. Your cuts are even. Place it in your miter box like so, and file that bottom surface where the pieces broke off. So it's nice and clean. Then I want you to check to make sure this fits in there. Like so. If you need to, file a little bit on the edges. Next, we have to cut out these two small L pieces that are 5 inches long. Now, on this take, I'm gonna go ahead and cut these out with a scissor, glue them down, and cut it out that way. As you can see, I didn't cut it out perfect. I didn't get on that line. I just cut on the end lines and the side lines, which is fine. So take your glue, just put a thin layer on your pattern. That's probably too much, but we'll go with it. And put it in place so that your sides and your bottom are even. All right, so what I did is I took a square and I completed this line on the top, and then I moved on over to the miter box, and I'm gonna put that line right on this 45 part of the miter box. And same thing, pull back a couple times. Make that cut, then flip it over, use a clamp. This way we don't have to have our fingers near the cut. Now we're going to go ahead and cut them to length. The next cut we have to make is this long one going down. So what we're gonna do is take this line and line it up with the right side of the opening and clamp it in place. I'll take your square and finish this line on the top. And we're gonna be cutting on this side of the line. On this cut, I want you to take it super easy because there's not a lot of support here. And watch your fingers. So start by pulling backwards, and just nice and light. And you're gonna cut down as far as the saw can go. What's happening is it's hitting this black support bar. That's as far as we can go. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this out. Right, now I'm gonna go ahead and cut this line right here. Right, so it's probably gonna be helpful to square this line across the edge as well. And we're cutting on the X side of the line. So I'm going to have this line lined up with the left side of the opening. Clamp that, see how I'm doing? Right, I'm pretty close. I'm gonna continue that cut down to that line. And then at that point, I can just snap that out. Got a little bit left here. We'll deal with that in a minute. Let's move on to the next one. This time I got smart. I put the pattern on the back side so I can actually see where to stop. So I want to go ahead and try to get these patterns off right now. What I'm going to do is take them over to the sink, get them wet. Hopefully that glue and paper will dissolve and I can easily peel that stuff off. So that came off pretty easy. A lot easier to take that pattern off before the glue totally dries. All right, now the next step is going to be clamping these together like so and cleaning up this section and these sections right here. With these clamped together, I can go ahead and use the miter box to help me support these while I file it down. All right, now that we have our 4 pieces cut out, what I want you to do is go ahead and put these 2 together like so, and these like so, and see if that fits. Right? If not, you might have to either remove some wood here or there with your file. Right? But once again, check to make sure that those are going to fit in there. If they do, let's proceed to gluing. We're going to edge glue these using tape. Pull these 2 boards tight together with the tape on the top and the bottom, and then take a 3rd piece and go over the glue line. All right, same thing with these guys. Make sure that everything is lined up. Pull it tight as you can on the top and the bottom, like so. Now flip it over and put a bead of glue and then set it flat. Take a damp cloth and wipe up any excess glue. And then take another piece of tape, pull it tight again, just to make sure that these things stay together. And we're gonna let them dry for at least 1 hour. It's been an hour, so we can go ahead and pull the tape off. Next step is sanding. Start with 100 grit in your sanding block. And what I want you to work on are smoothing the glue line, breaking the edges, and rounding the corners. I beveled the corners, I beveled the edges all the way around, and I'm going to continue to do that to this piece as well. And then I will go ahead and finish sanding with the 180 and 320. I'm just finishing up here with 320, making sure I get all the edges and the faces sanded on both pieces and looking good and ready for a finish. I'm going to be applying a wipe-on poly using a rag. That's a wrap on the phone charging chair. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.